Now on BBC Two, a news quiz that's not to be sniffed at.
Good evening and welcome to the programme in which we boldly empty the nose of news into the handkerchief of satire. And in the hanky this week, economic news as Mrs Thatcher spots the green shoots of recovery. A slip up at Madame Tussauds as two identical dummies are put on display. And an army corporal from Syria wins the first ever international blazing kebab hurdling competition. On Ian Hislop's team this week, a comedian who's been on both Ian and Paul's team in the past, so this time they tossed for it, and as you can see, Ian lost. Frank Skinner. And with Paul, a Sun journalist and broadcaster who was recently given the award for Irritant of the Year, which he won just ahead of Anthrax, Richard Littlejohn. And so we prepare to befriend and infiltrate round one, in which our panellists need only to prove that they're alive and awake to rake in 4 points. Ian and Frank, what joyous news is this?
Paul Daniels is back.
And Michael Foot buying some lozenges.
First time buyers. Flat beer, I guess who's holding it. John Major made a speech saying that the recession was over. It's a speech he's getting very good at now. Had a lot of practice over the last 5 years. But apparently it is over now, and that's official. So obviously we all believe that, and we're all delighted.
Excellent. You are right. It's the official announcement of the country's economic recovery, or resurrection might be rather nearer the mark. Apparently, house sales are up 9%, production has hit a 19-year high, dole figures have dropped by 26,000, a cure has been found for all known diseases, and a large sow has been spotted cruising at 20,000 feet. Paul and Richard, time for sober reflection.
That's well, there's Brian Clough.
Brian Clough enjoying a glass of mineral water.
Yes.
To point out.
Yes.
Why is he
That's
kissing
the
those blokes?
Nottingham Gay Liberation Front.
That's him practising how to walk home from the pub.
He was teaching his dog how to piss.
No, I think it was actually a booze dog. It's a dog you take down the pub with you, and it's a bit limp and lame, so it sort of swaggers the same way as you do, and it gets you home.
Are you suggesting that Brian Clough has ever had a drink?
Be very careful.
Yes.
Yes. Could you use the word allegedly a lot? Here?
Yes.
What, he drinks a lot, allegedly?
Yeah.
Yes.
The mayor of Nottingham said he was the most important Nottingham citizen since Robin Hood, which I think was a bit hard on Sue Pollard.
I like the idea that a director of the club said that you knew he'd had too much to drink because he was doing a voiceover for shredded wheat.
When he hit that football supporter on the pitch a few years ago, somebody said it was a case of the shit hitting the fan.
Yes, it's Brian Clough and the appalling slur that he came out with when he tried to say shredded wheat in the commercial, allegedly. Allegations about Clough's lifestyle have been flying about all week. A fireman told how he found him lying flat out in a ditch. At first, he thought he'd seen a bundle of rubbish in the field, but it turned out to be the Notts Forest Defence. Ian and Frank, more thrills and spills from our foreign desk.
That's Yeltsin.
Thanks. And that someone is selling 2 eggs in Red Square.
Yeltsin coxing the Oxford 8, pulling someone's nasal hair. Not yours, is it?
No. Put it all together, and what have you got? Not my nasal hair, I mean... a
couple of jumpers, I would think.
There was a referendum in Russia.
Yes.
That's the answer.
An inspired answer, thank you so much.
And Yeltsin won.
It is the Russian referendum, won by Boris Yeltsin, despite rumours that he downs a bottle of vodka before lunch every day. So had he failed, he would have been prime candidate for the forest job. Allegedly. According to pressmen at the polling station, Yeltsin joked, "I don't know why my wife is taking so long. She's probably voting against me." His wife then joked back, "No, no, I'm voting for you." Who says the Russians have no sense of humour? Paul and Richard, here is the news.
Yeah, well, that's Martin Lewis, clearly. He's announced that he's having an affair with that cat. And he said, "I'm very happy with the cat," and he's heard about it, and he's having a laugh. And she said, what's wrong with us women? Why does he have to go out with a cat?" And
there's Brian Clough
there's
again.
Brian Clough.
Yes, a perfect answer, but completely wrong. Anything in the news?
He said, yes,
you can tie
he
it to?
said that news coverage isn't as balanced as it should be, and there should be more happier, lighter news mixed in with the heavy, serious stuff, and it was all the diet of heavy stuff makes people very depressed and makes them think they live in a very gloomy world.
Yes, it's
The redhead opening her legs at the end, was that the royal story?
Oh, you've turned them against you, Ian, I think.
I'm very happy to say that it was actually Sonia who...
I think he meant the clown, actually. You obviously had the full length shot of Sonia. We only had a head and shoulders.
In that case, I'm very happy to say it wasn't Sonia, and I'd like to apologise to Sonia and her lawyers.
And the clown, of course.
Yeah, and the clown, yes. It is BBC newscaster Martin Lewis who said that TV news bulletins should stress the happy and optimistic side of the news. So presumably he means things like, "Good news for glaziers, another large bomb's gone off." Lewis, who's on a one-week lecture tour of the US, said he longed to cheer up viewers. Well, he could always make it 2 weeks. Which brings us to the end of the news, and the main points again are that, as usual, at this stage, both teams sit astride a pulsating 4. Round 2 lurks tantalisingly round the corner, but before we succumb, it's the extremely small matter of our caption competition. 2 bizarre visions. Ian and Frank, here's yours. Paul and Richard, for you, this. In the meantime, if it isn't round 3, it'll be round 2, which it is. 1 tabloid absurdity per person. Paul, your conundrum is plants that speak volumes.
These are plants that have learned to talk. And you can have them in your house in the middle of the night, and if they need anything or anything, they suddenly go, "Water!" in the middle of the night, and you know they need water, or "Baby bio." Pruning, like that. And Kew Gardens are worried because they said the noise is going to be tremendous.
Yes, it is. It's the discovery that plants are so clever that they can communicate with each other, and that when chopped down or attacked, a plant emits a high-pitched warning squeal, audible only to other plants. Must be very useful. I wonder what it's saying. Duck? Apparently, when a plant makes a clicking noise, it's saying that it desperately wants fluid, the same sound that was heard between takes on the shredded wheat commercial.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Richard, Di bites the bullet. Explain that.
Yes, it's been a busy week for the Princess of Wales. This story refers to her speech about bulimia sufferers. She should know she's suffered from it, and the headline says, "Di bites the bullet." What it doesn't say is she brought it immediately straight back up again.
Yes, that's right. It is. It's Princess Diana, who for the first time spoke in public about anorexia and bulimia this week. She told a conference of experts on eating disorders, "If you eat, you live. If you don't, you die." Must have come as a bit of a shock to them. She referred to the illness as a shameful friend that stays with you for life, presumably as opposed to the sort of shameful friend that rings you up on a mobile the moment your husband goes out. Frank, the dawning of a new era. Radio Gaga.
Oh dear. This is to do with Virgin, Richard Branson and all that lot, Virgin, are starting their own radio company called, I think, Radio Virgin. And I think that's it, really, except one of them was saying that Radio 1 is really terrible. So I think we can expect...
Isn't this an old people's question? Sort of young, trendy people like Richard Branson are saying that sort of the hairy monster and all those very young, old people on Radio 1 are all gaga.
Well, that's not necessarily...
The right answer.
Not necessarily the right answer, but Frank was right anyway, so he gets the 2 points.
Oh, good.
I was right, OK.
OK.
He knew.
Such a shock.
And he doesn't know what this exactly refers to, so he was very vague about that. It was a school teacher sort of, well, it might be, let's find them for homework, shall we?
I've read my articles, I know exactly what it's about.
So why does it say Radio Gaga as a headline?
Because it's a reference to exactly what Ian said. Yes, it is Virgin Radio, which started up today with a much publicised diet of AOR, any old rubbish, and what they're describing as a zoo format, so full of shit with a variety of reptiles behind glass. Tony Blackburn welcomed the idea of competition for Radio 1, saying that it had been no good since he left. He pointed out, I was the first person to do time checks, you know. So when Neville Chamberlain said, it's now midday and there's been no communication from Herr Hitler, he was obviously quoting Tony Blackburn.
Yeah, but he didn't go on to play a record from the Tremolos, did he?
No, it was Gladys Knight and the Pips. In fact. And finally in this round, Ian, a slight tiff for you to sort out. Sting accuses tribesmen.
Well, I think we're in a bit of a Brian Clough situation here, because Sting says he didn't accuse them today. But these tribesmen who he was helping to save the rainforest have been saving bits of it for themselves. Unfortunately, they've cut it down first and then flogged off the mahogany, which is rather disillusioning.
They didn't cut it into, like, circular discs and put it in the bottom of the lips, did they?
No, those are Sting CDs.
Yes, it is the alleged rift between Sting, real name Gordon Sumner, and the leader of the Kayapo Rainforest Indians, Chief Rione, real name Timothy Fanshawe.
You can get that sort of injury with a vacuum cleaner.
Yes, it is very painful. After reports that the tribe had profited from selling £6 million worth of wood, and anyone who's seen Sting acting will know exactly what that looks like. Sting raised £1.6 million for the Indians, but according to a Brazilian newspaper, only £54,000 of it was spent on saving the forest. These allegations have been vigorously denied by the Rainforest Foundation and by the tribe's new accountant, Senior Roberto Maxwelli. Which, curious notion, brings us faltering to the end of our pre-penultimate, or second, round, and the upshot of that is that, well, both teams are being equally gorgeous, as Ian and Frank and Paul and Richard both have a level 8. And so, with a mixture of ridicule and derision, we welcome our notorious odd one out round for Summer Swallows, which is the Linda Lovelace. Paul, take your pick from Shirley MacLaine, David Icke, the Dalai Lama, and Franz Beckenbauer, manager of the German football team.
It's reincarnation, surely. It's because Shirley MacLaine believes he's been reincarnated, and the Dalai Lama is a reincarnation of the previous bloke before him.
Not much option, is there? You're always a Dalai Lama. Keep coming back.
Yeah.
I'll give you 1 point.
Beckenbauer used to be known as the Kaiser.
Well, that's very interesting, Ian.
It is, isn't it?
I think almost entirely irrelevant to the question.
Beckenbauer hasn't been reincarnated. Can we attempt to get a point?
David Icke used to live in Atlantis, so he said. Right. And Wemmick's directory or something. And then Shirley MacLaine used to be Cleopatra, and Dalai Lama used to be the Dalai Lama. And before he was the Dalai Lama this time.
And next time he's going to be the Dalai Lama.
Dalai Lama 3, this time it's personal. So Beckenbauer's the odd one out because although he's called the Kaiser, he never was the Kaiser, as far as we know. But the others were other people. In fact, David Icke was a snooker commentator. So from snooker commentator to the son of God, it's not a bad career move, it has to be said. What happened to Dickie Davis? He's probably Cleopatra.
He's got his own religion now, Dickie Davis.
Dickie Davis?
They all walk around with that little grey bit of hair.
You never did finish painting that ceiling, did you?
I'll give you 1 point, because you sort of got the reason but the wrong odd one out. It's the Dalai Lama, as all the others believe they were different people in past lives, whereas the Dalai Lama believes he was himself in past life. Evidently, Franz Beckenbauer talks to plants, as opposed to the England manager, who talks to vegetables. And Franz even thinks he may have been a plant in a previous life. Sounds like he may have been smoking one in this life. David Icke told his wife that he got another woman pregnant only because she'd been his squaw when he was a Red Indian chief in another life. If only Cecil Parkinson had thought of that one. Richard, your meeting of like minds are Ken Livingstone, Lord Lichfield, Simon Perry, and Thora Hird.
Who is Simon Perry?
He's a presenter of a children's television programme called
He
What's
looks
Up,
like a
Doc?
child molester. Does he share a dentist with David Mellor?
Oh dear.
I've been talking out my arse all night.
I thought there was a bit of an echo.
OK, are you ready? Have you got your mic on now, Richard?
Testing, 1, 2.
Oh, good.
All right.
Richard, your meeting of like minds are Ken Livingstone, Lord Lichfield, Simon Perry,
Who's
and...
Simon Perry?
In fact, the odd one out is Livingstone, because the others are all Thora Hird, as far as that is.
Whose question is this?
Oh, sorry.
anyone's, I think.
Sorry, I thought you'd answered it once. It must have been.
That was in a former life.
Oh, that was when I was...
Sorry, Richard, you were saying? You were about to get it wrong.
Someone was going to tell me who Simon Perry was.
Oh, right. He's, yes, the presenter of a children's programme called What's Up, Doc?
He looks like a child molester, doesn't he? Does he share a dentist with David Mellor?
We're on a time loop here. Turning into an episode of Doctor Who, isn't it? Who's Simon Perry?
He's a children's presenter.
It's a children's
What's
television
Up,
presenter.
Doc?
Looks more like a child molester than me.
We know the answer to this.
Yeah, we know the answer.
Well, I think it's that Thora Hird's advertised cheese, Ken Livingstone's advertised cheese, Simon Perry has sort of bought that thing there. He bought a very rare bit of cheese. There's a lot of cheese on the television programme. The odd one out is Lord Lichfield.
Is wrong. So you're almost there. I thought you were
answer
going to
is
get it right.
he's
Do you
a
wanna throw it
children's
across to us?
television presenter. Is that the answer?
No, that's his profession,
right, yeah, okay.
as opposed to the answer.
Looks more like a child molester than me.
Where did he get those teeth?
Does he share a dentist with David Mellor?
No, I think this is an advertising question, but it's not cheese. It's everyone's done ads. I mean, Paul Merton's done one for Imperial Leather.
Well, you did an advert in Norway for Cooper's suet pudding. You don't talk
Damn,
about
I
that.
thought no one had seen it.
I've seen it.
No,
If you like
it's
suet pudding, buy it, it's really great.
No, the slogan was, if you like suet and you like pudding, you'll like suet pudding. Says TV's losing captain on Have I Got News For You?
Paul, I'll give you 1 point because you were virtually there. The answer is that Simon Perry is the only one not to have advertised cheese. Thora Hird advertised Wensleydale, despite having undergone recent heart bypass operation. She said, when I was given an anaesthetic, I saw thousands of extras dressed as early Britons and pigeons with chefs' hats on. And then I was in Liberty's basement, where everything was pink. Didn't know they used LSD as an anaesthetic these days. Frank, an international foursome for you. Bill Clinton, Jerry Hall, Amanda de Cadenet, and Troy Tempest.
Amanda Cadenet goes out with one of Duran Duran, doesn't she? And Bill Clinton goes out with Hillary. And
That other
Jerry
one.
Hall goes out with Mick Jagger. But Troy Tempest went out with a mute aquamphibian woman called... and I don't know if you've ever been out with an aquamphibian woman, but
No, I haven't.
And she didn't make any noise. So 3 of them went out with people who you wish wouldn't make any noise at all. And Troy Tempest went out with someone who didn't make any noise at all. called
Was that Marina?
Yeah, Aqua Marina.
Or they're all... what about they all use... Aqua Marina.
Yes,
What
yes,
is that strange
thank you.
enchantment that comes whenever you... Simon Perry... So, what about they're all models except Bill Clinton?
Well, it's an interesting answer and completely inaccurate. I'll give no points to anyone, I think, because the
Is
answer
this something they've named their daughters? Chelsea Clinton.
Knightsbridge
Named
Hall.
Camden Town Hall, I think, is a...
Yes, the answer is that they've all called their daughters after place names, except Troy Tempest, who is, of course, himself a place name.
Where's Tempest?
I'm sorry. Oh, it's in California, little village. Joey Hall called her daughter Georgia after the state in which she became pregnant, so presumably she could just as well have called her half undressed with legs akimbo. Amanda de Cadenet named her daughter Atlanta, reflecting the increasing popularity of US place names. Well, you can't imagine calling her Scunthorpe de Cadenet, can you? And Bill Clinton called his daughter Chelsea, which has now become the most popular new name for girls in Essex. Strange, you'd have thought Essex girls would be calling themselves Nottingham Forest. They're 100% certain of going down.
Copyright.
And Essex. An Essex girls joke on the most sharp, satirical comedy programme on television.
Ideologically as unsound as you can get. And finally, Ian, 4 housewives' favourites for you. Dr. Crippen, Hannibal Lecter, Richard Littlejohn, and Derek Hatton.
3 of the people here have been found guilty of serious offences. Dr. Crippen, murder of his wife. Anthony Hopkins, of being in that terrible film. No, Hannibal Lecter was actually convicted of serial murders, presumably. And Richard Littlejohn was convicted of a fray in Peterborough about 10 years ago. I'm sure he'll fill you in on the details.
I'm afraid I cannot tell a lie. It was 21 years ago, but you were close.
Good.
And I was very lucky. I was fined £40. I actually think I should have been hanged and flogged because it's the only language people like me understand.
Isn't that bloke who held up a sign that said boo at the Queen this week and he got done for threatening behaviour? If he'd have had an M on the end of it, would he have got done under the Prevention of Terrorism?
The odd one
Is
out...
that wrong?
No, you're right. The odd one out is Derek Hatton, as all the others have a history of violent crime. Whereas Derek Hatton has not committed any crime whatsoever, specifically not defrauding Liverpool City Council. And some years ago, Richard here was convicted of instigating a brawl at a college dance. He's now known as a Sun journalist and a violent criminal. His poor family are so embarrassed that they just tell people he's a violent criminal. Which mindless delinquency brings us tumbling to the end of this round, and the intriguingly poised situation is that Ian and Frank have 10 and are literally snapping on the heels of Paul and Richard, who have 12. So, with one bound and a little light fumbling, we find ourselves face to face with our final missing words round. Ian and Frank are currently a little behind on points, so they begin with Lamont says think what?
If this was Family Fortunes, it would be Lamont says think, our survey says
Think rubbish.
No, small is actually the answer. Next,
Think small.
Queen objects to what near Buckingham Palace?
Naked flames.
Is it Duchess of York?
Well, I'll give you one. It's 335-foot tower block, so you're almost there. BBC to seek partners for what?
For John Burt PLC.
Simon Perry, probably, I think, by the look of him.
Neither of those. Satellite channels is, in fact, what we were looking for. Heard's what? Shameful, says Tebbit.
That's it. Hurts.
Yeah.
Shameful. It was his metaphor about the level killing fields. Is it his phrase, his behaviour, his attitude? Just give us a point, Angus.
Is it U-turn?
It's U-turn. I'm afraid I'm going to give Paul 2 points. So, Paul and Richard, here's your batch. Yeltsin scores what?
Dope.
Is libelous.
Victory?
5 goals for Scotland.
Yeltsin scores 12 if you get him in Scrabble.
Is it 140 a celebrity dart throw on bullseye?
You were closer with victory, I have to
Is it
say.
scores triumph?
Well, he's...
Referendum win.
I'll give you 1 for win.
We don't get any points for victory.
No, you noticed that.
Yeah.
Next, IMF throws what over Chancellor?
Up.
Is it cold water, is it?
It is cold water, very good. Next, Group 4 staff find what impossible? The score's 15.
Mission?
Picking the prison football team.
Escape is the right answer. And finally, with the score still at 15 all, fish what in space?
Fingers? Lost? Found?
Isn't
Fish
that
forecast sunny periods in space.
Does it live?
It's not live,
Is
it's...
it Paul Merton's
Exist?
desperate to win?
it's
Oh,
that
no, it
way.
doesn't fit.
It's actually dangerously close to live.
Exist?
Breathe.
It's the opposite, in other words.
Die.
Is right.
Is.
Ian. Ian
that was
wins
the
with
headline.
guessing the opposite of live. Well
What's the
done.
headline?
It's pretty good for me.
Which wayward shots in the dark, as usual, act as a suitable closing number to another show. And the grim
Well, that's
news...
just ridiculous.
You won the last 2. The grim news is that this week's black spots are Paul and Richard with 15, and this week's purple patches are Ian and Frank with 17. So, 2 cup final tickets to our winners, 2 season tickets to Nottingham Forest for our losers. But before the inevitable, let's summon up our earlier caption competition. Ian and Frank, yours was like this.
Mellor saying, I go to the same dentist as Simon Perry.
And he said, he looks like a child molester.
Paul and Richard, yours was like this, I believe.
Get off me, you drunk.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
On which, potentially, almost certainly, libellous note, we say thank you to our guests, Ian Hislop and Frank Skinner, Paul Merton and Richard Littlejohn, and I leave you with news of confusion at the Dominion Theatre as Madonna's after-show entertainment is delivered backstage. There are fears that the cocaine culture is making it difficult for some Hollywood stars to adjust to everyday life. And finally, in Washington, there are criticisms that Bill Clinton's undercover bodyguards may not be blending into the background as discreetly as they might. Good night.